Hello and welcome to another episode of Draft Gym TV. As always, you are joined by me, Andy, FPL Teach Mode, and we have our second live stream coming at you straight away. We already have people in the chat. Thank you very much for joining us in the chat if you are in there already. Obviously, we are now, I've literally got the Spain-Poland game on in the background at the moment. We are thinking about moving on to match day 3. We are thinking about the rotation that's going to be coming up, which is going to be mad at the moment. If you are in the chat and if you are watching, make sure you like and subscribe, by the way, because it really, really helps us. We are we've only really been a channel for about 3 weeks, so if you're in the chat, make sure you drop us a like, drop us a subscribe. Obviously, we are coming from Draft Gym, the website, and we have plenty of content on there as well for you to digest, especially before tomorrow, because we are going to be having to lock in tomorrow. It's going to be a busy night. Now, Spain, Poland are on at the moment, and then match day 2 is done. And then we're going to be thinking about match day 3, and that is, it's going to be a wild one. So, before we do anything else, let me just have a quick look. We've got Korf in the chat. Evening, Korf. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, buddy. We've also got Sir Cartier. He is asking, should I transfer Torres to Gnabry? Do we reckon Torres is starting against Slovakia? Good question. At this moment in time, I am going to hazard a guess and say probably no, and I would probably be all over Gnabry in that fixture, but we will get to that in a minute. But yes, I would probably favour Gnabry over Torres. I think Gnabry's been really unlucky so far. That game today, he could easily have had 2 or 3 attacker returns. So yeah, I'm all over that. I like that quite a lot. Now, if we have a little look at my entries that I've been doing so far, I've got more than this, but these are kind of my top ones at the moment. I'm fairly happy with this, to be perfectly honest. I got 3 around that 2k mark, so nothing wrong with that at all, I don't think. And then I've got quite a few around that 10k mark, which I think, I can just keep pushing forward and try and get them to place as much as possible. And then, like I said, those 3 that are at 2k, I'm going to be trying to push those on, and I'm hoping that they're going to be finishing quite high. The problem is that, and I think a lot of people are going to be in this position as well, if your highest ranked entries are doing well, it's probably because they've got players in from those teams that are now qualified and they're going to be full of rotation. I think I've got one in there, which is the 2,300 entry, that is full of Ukrainians and Swedish, so that I put in a late entry, and that was one of them. And then that one I'm actually feeling really good about. In every single one of my teams, I have got 2 free transfers to use, so I'm going to be using those as much as possible. We've got the Italy lineup we will find out about. We found out about Belgium as well, because Belgium are going to be playing De Bruyne. They are going to be playing Eden Hazard. So we've already got a few leaks coming in. And I think it is definitely worth keeping an eye on those leaks and keeping an eye on those lineups, because all of Group A we will find out. So make sure you have a look at those. So David Walsh is in the chat. He's saying Sancho. Yeah, I'll tell you what, it could be interesting to see whether Sancho starts for England. I'm not 100% whether he will or not at the moment, if I'm perfectly honest, but if there's any inkling that he could start, I'm shocked he hasn't started already. Literally shocked he hasn't started already, because we look like we need a player of his quality in there. So yeah, I'm quite shocked he isn't in there already. Right, so let's get straight onto the fixtures and look at these groups, because it's going to start telling us whether we've got some rotation fears. And I won't lie, it's kind of worked out really nicely. The first 6 teams here in Group A, B and C, they all have teams, I think, that will rotate. So it's good that we're going to be talking about those first. And then when we get on to Group D, E and F, they're actually a bit kinder in terms of rotation. So here, if we're looking at these teams in these groups, you've got Group A, Italy, Wales, Switzerland, Turkey. Italy have blown us away so far. 3 goals in both games. No goals conceded. Obviously, Spinazzola is making a name for himself in everybody's household at the moment. Immobile's done incredibly well so far as well. Insigne's kind of flashed at times. Berardi's looked like he's a good assister. Italy are going to rotate wildly. They really are. I think we're probably going to get leaks of the lineup anyway, so we'll know what the lineup is before we have to lock in. I think that they are going to have players like Belotti come in. I think they're going to have players like Tadoi come in, players like Chiesa come in, which actually leaves us with the opportunity to attack some of these differentials that we might not have used before. So I think they're going to be quite a good one to go with. They are playing against Wales. Wales more than likely have qualified anyway, or have qualified anyway, I should say, sorry. So I think Italy's a nice one to go for. I think that game could be Italy potentially winning 1-0. It potentially maybe more because they have been quite good attacking wise. So I think I would be looking at people like Chiesa. I'd be looking at people like Tadoi, even Donnarumma. If you've got Donnarumma, I think he will play anyway. So I think that's something you can do. If you want to go for Bale because you fancy him scoring against Italy, personally, I don't see it myself. I feel like Italy are a team that completely control games, and although Wales have that fire and that fire in the belly, I don't see them getting a result against Italy. I've said that about Wales against Switzerland and Turkey, but there you go. Turkey, if I've got Turkish players in my team, they're going to go out and they're going to have to try and do something to finish as one of those best placed, third place teams. So I think if I had Turkish players, I'd be playing them. Yilmaz, Çalhanoğlu, they're playing against Switzerland. Both of them need the win. I think if you've got any Swiss or Turkish players in your team, you've got to play them because so many of us are going to have these players that aren't being able to play because of rotation. So those other players are going to be playing in your team. So make sure you play them. I fancy Turkey to turn up on the last day, but they haven't been great so far. So we'll see what happens. Group B. So we have got North Macedonia against the Netherlands and then Ukraine against Austria. Sorry, no we don't. I got that the wrong way around. We have Finland against Belgium and we have Russia against Denmark. Now it's a shame Belgium are going to be rotating, but we already know that Kevin De Bruyne will 100% play. Eden Hazard will 100% play. For me, straight away there, De Bruyne captain is ringing bells in my head. De Bruyne captain in this fixture, I think, is beautiful. For the fact they're playing against Finland. Finland have really struggled in an attacking sense, have struggled in a defensive sense as well. I mean, I say that, they've only got one goal against them, but they haven't been great. I expect Belgium to put them to the sword, personally. I think knowing that Eden Hazard and De Bruyne are going to play, there's no reason why you can't go for that double up and even go for someone like Meunier as well in defence if you wanted to too. I think Meunier will play because I don't think there's anybody else that will play in that position, so I think he's a good shout. And I mean, the only other one you'd maybe touch someone like Courtois, but for 7 million, I would rather have someone like Meunier. So I think triple up at Belgium is a very, very good way to go. If you've got your two sub, I mean, I'm looking at it and I've got someone in one of my Belgium entries. I've got Thorgan Hazard, and Thorgan Hazard's not going to be fit for the game, so I'm going to be taking him out and I'm going to be putting De Bruyne in, and I'm going to be looking to try and get Eden Hazard in if I can as well. In the other game, in Russia-Denmark, it's going to be a tough game, that one. Denmark, I said it before, I feel like their hearts are not maybe in this tournament anymore. They actually put up a hell of a fight, and I thought the game got to Belgium a little bit. I thought the emotions got to them at the very beginning of it, and then the quality started to tell. So for me, I think Russia are going to beat Denmark. They need to get some kind of a positive result, just in case Finland do something impossible against Belgium. But I think Russia are going to do quite well. So for me, Zuba, Golovin, I'd be over them. And I'm wondering whether Denmark are even going to score. I'm wondering whether that was kind of their big game that they played against Belgium. So I would even fancy someone like Semenov, although their defence rotated last time, which was horrendous. So I think if it were me, I'd be focused on their attack. So Zuba and Golovin, I think, are going to be great shouts for that. And then when you get on to Group C, we've got North Macedonia against Netherlands and Ukraine against Austria. Now, Depay finally came good, thank God. Obviously, he scored the penalty. But Netherlands have already qualified and they are comfortably top of their group. And the problem is they're playing against North Macedonia, which is a team where they could put out their B team and they would probably comfortably beat them. So, yes, North Macedonia have done well in terms of they scored goals in both of their games. And Netherlands do have a bit of a creaky defence, unfortunately. So, I'm looking at that fixture thinking if I can guarantee getting some Netherlands players in my team, they're going to rotate. I don't think Depay's going to play. I don't think Dumfries is going to play either, which is a real shame. I feel like Vendel's finally going to play, which would be good. I feel like there is a player up front for them. I think it's called Marlon. I think he could play as well. So if you can have a look at that Dutch team and think, I know roughly who's going to play, then go for it. Because I think that is one of the fixtures for me where not a lot of those Dutch rotated players will be in a lot of teams. So you can attack that and try and get points where nobody else will. The other fixture, Ukraine versus Austria, is a tough one to call. I do like this Ukraine side. Yarmolenko, Malinovsky, Yaremchuk, they've all done incredibly well so far. So I am backing Ukraine to beat Austria. So all my Ukrainian players I'm going to be playing. To be honest, you're probably going to be in one of those positions where you've probably got some Austrian players on your bench from match day one. If you do, you're just going to have to play them. I think I wouldn't be taking unnecessary hits. We've got some questions coming up later. I wouldn't be taking any unnecessary hits. If you've got players on the bench that can still play, if you've got Austrian players on your bench, and yes, they might not win the game, but they can still get you a couple of points. And I think realistically, unless you get a captain return this week, it's going to be tough to get a reasonable score. And if you can get just a reasonable score out of this game week, and you just run away with it personally. The Wallaby Gamer says Depay and Wijnaldum have started every single game under De Boer, even easy friendlies like Gibraltar. Yeah, but it's so different in a tournament like this. It really is. And it's against North Macedonia as well. I could be completely wrong. I really could be. And I don't think if there's any doubt, I would be taking those kind of players out. The players I would be taking out are the Italian players where we know what the lineup will be most likely. And if there's any doubt in my head as to whether Depay will play, of course I won't take him out. But in the same respect, you're going to have some players that we know won't play. And we're going to have some rotated players that we know will play. Someone like De Bruyne is perfect. So we've got to go with someone like De Bruyne. But if you, in your head, think, yep, Netherlands are going to keep those players in, then you keep them in. There's nothing worse than taking them out. People did that with Pavard this week. They took Pavard out because of the concussion protocols and put Hernandez in, and then it was the other way around. And that is one of the worst things to ever do. So Dasher Dude says, don't like the Ukraine match. They will both be happy for a draw. They could be. They really could be. And they're obviously, if they both get the draw, then they're both going to be going through, aren't they? And because they're playing each other head to head, they'll stay as they are. I just see Ukraine. I just see Ukraine as a better team. So yes, they'll both be playing for a draw, but I think Ukraine are a better team. I think they've got better playmakers. I think they've got better finishers and better match winners. So for me, I think Ukraine could still win that game anyway. So that's why if I've got Ukrainian players on my bench, I'm going to be playing them. I'm not going to be captaining them. I think for me, I'm going to be captaining De Bruyne or some Belgian players in my team quite heavily. But there you go. Any other questions, make sure you ask me. Gaza Flute says, I don't fancy Russia at all. Yeah, well, in that fixture against Denmark, it really will go one of two ways. And I said this on my last stream as well. Denmark are either going to be fighting and putting all their passion into it, or it's going to... I feel like they did it against Belgium. That first half an hour, it was all about Denmark, and the occasion was there for them. They're not going to be able to do that potentially again against Russia. And I fancy Russia to win it, personally. It might not be to nil, but I fancy Russia to nick a result. Korf FPL, great stream, Andy. Love it. Cheers, buddy. Thank you very much. Right, let's move on to the next lot of fixtures then, shall we? So, in Group D, we've got Croatia against Scotland, and we've got Czech Republic against England. I won't go on about it too much, but God, England, Jesus Christ. You do make it hard for us supporters, don't you? They were devoid of a lot of invention. I think Scotland played really well. I thought they did exactly what they needed to do. And I said it in something else where I worry that England sometimes don't show that urgency, don't show that fight. And against Scotland, man for man, there's no reason why England shouldn't have beaten Scotland. The only reason why we might not have is if they showed more fight than us. And they just did. And you think that's completely down to the manager, unfortunately. It does make me question players like Harry Kane. It does make me question players like Sterling and Will Sancho come in. And it's a real tough one because we're not going to get any inclination as to who's playing. I think Kane will most probably play. I was shocked he came off. I didn't think that was in Gareth Southgate to do that. Sir Cartier is asking about Kane starting. I think Kane will start. I think if you go into the knockouts and he's only played, 168 minutes in the group stages, I think you're going to be worrying. You need him to play and you need him to get a goal. He was completely on the periphery. He really was. I think he touched the ball 15 times, maybe a little bit more than that, but he's not fitting into this system at the moment. And if you've got a game against Czech Republic, yes, they are currently top of the group at the moment, but obviously we're playing against each other. But if you've got a game against Czech Republic where you could potentially get him a goal and get him a bit of momentum going, I would be shocked if he doesn't play. Genuinely, I would be shocked. I would put money on the fact that he will play. So for me, I think he'll be playing. I don't think the rest of it will be much changed. I don't think we're going to rotate that much, if I'm perfectly honest. You only need us to potentially lose to Czech Republic or just draw to them, and Croatia or Scotland to get a result, and all of a sudden that group is very bunched up. So I suspect it's going to be a fairly strong team. I still think that midfield is going to be quite similar. I think Mount will play. I think Kane will play. Wingers, I'm really not sure at the moment because none of them have looked overly effective. Yes, Sterling's got the goal, but defensively, I think we've looked fine defensively. I think Stones is still the best shout. I mean, I would be playing my English players because I always keep thinking, we've got our transfers. I think if I had Kane, I wouldn't be transferring him out, but I don't think I'd be captaining him, which is mad for the most expensive player in the game, but I don't think I would be. David Walsh, genuinely forgot to use my limitless for this match day. Use it for match day 3 or wildcard. Unfortunately, David, this is all about FanTeam, but I am doing the official Euro one as well. I would probably save my limitless now because of all the nice players that we know are going to play. I think you can probably get quite a good squad out with just using your wild card and then use limitless in one of the other match weeks. But that's the only time I'll talk about official. And then Croatia Scotland. Do you know what? I think that's a tough game. I thought Croatia looked good in the last game, and I thought they were unlucky. I thought they were unlucky, to be honest. I think. It's tough, isn't it? I can't go against Scotland again because people are absolutely ruining me for going against Scotland. So I'm going to go with that being a potential draw. I think Croatia, they won't rotate. Scotland won't rotate either. Robertson still looks an absolute shout for Scotland. I think if you've got their players, you're going to play them. So make sure you do. Group E, Slovakia have Spain, Sweden have Poland. Spain at the moment are winning 1-0 and most likely going to be top in this group. They most probably will rotate quite... sorry, not Spain. Jesus Christ. They're going to have 4 points, aren't they? I forgot they drew their first game. Sweden, I think, because Slovakia and then Spain are going to... Slovakia are going to be on 3 points. Spain are going to be on 4 points. I don't see Sweden and Spain rotating that heavily because of that. They might rotate 1 or 2, but I don't really think they will. Sweden, I think, because they've got Poland, and Poland are looking quite devoid of any kind of invention at the moment as well, I'd be all over players like Forsberg, Isak. I love them. I think Isak's been very lively this tournament, and this could be the fixture that actually he finally puts, kind of puts all those underlying stats in and turns them into attack and returns. And he's a player, isn't he? Really good player. So, yeah, I'd be targeting Sweden. If you've got Sweden players, make sure you play them. Slovakia, Spain, I think I would be playing all my Spanish players anyway. There's more than enough reason to think they're going to be keeping a clean sheet. I would potentially, if I've got Italian defenders that I don't think are playing, I'd be tempted to put in some Spanish defenders. I've got Pau Torres, I've got Simon, and I've got Alba in a lot of my teams, and they're keeping clean sheets. They have so much possession, they're keeping clean sheets. I'm saying that they're just kicking off. They're bound to bloody score now, aren't they? But yes, no, I'd be all over those Spanish defenders personally. Again, I wouldn't be over their attackers. Ferran Torres, I mean, I was shocked he wasn't playing tonight. I think he's one of their better players. But then Olmo's looked very good, and Moreno got the assist for the goal. So I think if I was on Torres, somebody asked me before, I think it was Sir Cartier, I would be on Gnabry. Sir Cartier saying, I think that urgency might come from the fact that they are fine with finishing seconds. Yeah, it could be, but the problem is, and I can remember Sir Alex Ferguson saying this about Man United once, is that if you start taking away that urgency and you start not winning games, it's really hard to get that momentum back again. And in such a small tournament, if momentum goes, that's it. It's sometimes you don't ever get it back again, in a tournament. And we could finish top, and we could go up against, at the moment it's looking like it could be Germany. We could finish second, and we face France in the round of 16s, in the quarterfinals. So I think for me, it could potentially, it's more important to win your games. It's more important to get that momentum going, and they haven't done it yet. But this stream isn't about England, so I'll stop talking about them. Now, and then Group F, we've got Germany, Hungary, we've got Portugal, France. Germany looked electric. Absolutely brilliant against Portugal. Best game of the tournament so far. It was absolutely awesome. I have been focusing on this Germany-Hungary game since the very beginning. I've had German players on my bench. I've had German entries. If you can get German players in your team, I would get them in your team. Yes, they've only got 3 points. France got 4, Portugal 3, Hungary 1. What a lovely group. I can't see anybody really rotating, if I'm perfectly honest. France might rotate 1 or 2, but I think Germany and Portugal are still going to go for it. Portugal, if they lose, I mean, they're going to go full strength against France. Because of that, I don't think France want to lose their momentum either. So I can't see much rotation. So if you've got French, Portugal or German players, you need to be playing them. Germany, I think, is the best bet this week, especially in terms of captaincy. If you've got Havertz, if you've got Gosens, what a player he is, then I would be going for that completely. So make sure you play your German players. Make sure you bring German players in potentially as well, because there's nothing wrong with that at all. So for me, I think that Portugal-France game, Portugal are going to have to go for it, and they've got the players to be able to go for it. But how good are France? I mean, they conceded against Hungary. They looked a little bit lost at times today. I think that game could have a few goals in it. I don't think it's going to be 0-0. I think that's going to have a few goals in it. So let's go for it, and let's hope that happens. The other thing is that, Portugal and France could see out a draw, could see out a 0-0, and they're both happy, and Germany have to do something against Hungary and they just all go through. So that could easily happen as well. But for me, I would be targeting that Germany fixture, and I would be playing all my Portugal and France as well. Dasher Dude says, Goosens is on my bench in a few teams. Oh, that's horrible. Thankfully, the 2 entries I actually had him in, I did start him. And one of them is my best one I've got at the moment as well, which has got out him and Dumfries, which is lucky, isn't it? Sir Cartier says, Insigne to Havertz. Yeah, I like that move. I don't see Insigne playing, so I do like that move. Well, I'd be going for that, and I'd be even tempted to captain Havertz personally. So that's our kind of roundup, and then I'm going to show you some of the questions that people have been asking on Twitter. FPL Yugi, I like the Yu-Gi-Oh reference there. Which player to focus on subbing out? Hit's worth it if you don't think you will field an 11. I would only be focusing on players that you think 100% in your mind they won't play due to rotation. I would not be taking any players out that are going to play. I would be using your 2 transfers if you've got 2 transfers, or if you've got 1, because obviously we get the wild card after this week. But I would only be taking players out that are playing. So many people got burned this week because they went from Ronaldo to Mbappe. Ronaldo was always going to play. He's always a danger. He lost 4-2 against Germany, but still got a goal and an assist. In this short kind of a tournament, you get punished so quickly. You do not take players out that you think will play. Only take out players that you think, rotation-wise, they're definitely going to change. We've already gone through them, and it's mainly in those first 3 groups. Italy, Belgium, and Netherlands, I expect to heavily rotate, but we will see what happens. Based on history, based on something Motley Barnett's did for us, I mentioned this on the last stream, teams usually make 8, 9, even 10 changes in their teams if they have already qualified. So for me, I think take those players out, focus on those, and then make sure you get players in that you know will play. There's nothing worse than bringing players out and bringing players in that you think, oh, they might play, and then it ends up bloody neither of them do. So yeah, just make sure you're really careful about it. Surya Prakash Konodia says, 2 questions. Probability of rotation of key players from top teams already qualified. Done that for you, mate. And best captain for match day 3, given most of the top players here have favourable fixtures. For me, it's going to be between De Bruyne and it's going to be between a German player, I think. I'm going to be between those. De Bruyne is the one, I think, the way he came on and the way he played against Denmark, I mean, he completely changed that team. He is the heartbeat of that team. He scores goals, he gets assists. For me, I'm going to be hard-pressed to not captain him in any teams I can get him in. So for me, I think De Bruyne is my top captaincy option. I think if we look back through the other fixtures, it's tough. Spain aren't scoring enough goals for me to captain them. If you really fancy going different, then Kane may be getting some momentum against Czech Republic, but I don't fancy that. Portugal, I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo, he's having a tournament so far, isn't he? So if you wanted to go for that, that's fine. If there's any inkling that Lukaku will start for Belgium, then I'd be all over him as well. And then Netherlands, if you know what the team's going to be against North Macedonia, we're going to talk about it a little bit in a minute. If you know what some of the teams are going to be, there it is. Look, I gave it away a little bit there. Then yes, I would be happy to go with someone like them as well. But rotation really worries me with Holland. The FPL, very differential. Do you expect the top scorers of each team who are already through to get rotated? So we've spoken about that a little bit already. Yes, I do expect there to be some rotation. It's going to be a tough week. Manage your expectations. Make sure you do, because there will be rotation. Your team will have somebody that gets rotated. It's just going to happen. Unless you've set up a brand new team this week, you're going to have some rotation. So be prepared. Ballstar, what are your plans for match day 3 in terms of sub-rotation? Done that already, look, aren't I good? Should you take a -4 hit to ensure you have 11 players playing? Now, I like this question because people are going to be really thinking about it. I am happy for people to take -4s as long as, and we've already touched on this a little bit, as long as you are happy that the player you are bringing in will definitely play. And do not take a -4 for somebody that will definitely play. Because it looks good on paper, but that -4 can be the difference between a couple thousand in terms of ranking in FanTeam. It really can. And there's no guarantee that what you do is going to instantly pay off. You've got 1 week for that -4 to pay off. That's it. 1 match day, because then we've all got a wild card. I've got 2 free transfers in all of my entries, and I have no intention of taking any -4s. I'm just going to field as many players as I can and just hope for the best and manage my expectations. If you can have a big week this week and you can get some captain returns, you're going to be laughing compared to the rest of the community. You're going to be loving life because so many teams are going to do so poorly this week, and the average is going to be so low that if you can have a banging week, you're going to be loving life. Seriously. FPL Pup, which teams do you think will have the main rotation and will need to switch out? So I've gone through that already for you, Pup. No worries. Where should we be focusing our transfer targets on? As I said, Germany and Belgium. I think they're the main ones. Belgium being De Bruyne and Eden Hazard. An optimal number of starting players and hits. So I've already talked about hits. I think optimal number of players, if you can get between 9 and 10 that you think are guaranteed to play, then that's lovely. No, Lewandowski's just scored against Spain. That is not good. If you can guarantee that you can get 9 or 10, I think that's fine. I wouldn't be taking hits for that. So 9 or 10 is absolutely fine. So Cartier, how do you feel about Alaba to Goossens for a -4? See, this is what I mean. The thing is, Alaba's going to play. And you know Alaba's going to play. And Austria, who did I say they have? I need to look back through. So Austria have Ukraine. There's no reason to believe that Austria can't get some kind of a result against Ukraine. So I would struggle. I mean, Spain have just conceded. I would struggle for a -4. What you're basically saying there is that Alaba needs to keep a clean sheet or has to get an attack and return for you to get for you to justify your -4. And I don't see that at the moment. He's not got anything yet. Yes, he's advanced, but I don't think I'd do it. I'm really avoiding -4s whenever I can. Dashadu, goal Lua. Yeah, I know. Jesus. So there you go. Now, what I have done is just put forward a bit of a perfect team for me. Now, I say perfect team. This is within restraints of the of the 105 million that you can spend. Sorry. So I've got Olsen in goal. I fancy Sweden to keep a clean sheet against Poland, although Poland have obviously just scored. Although Poland have just scored. I have gone for that triple up that I spoke about for Germany. I've got Goossens, I've got Havertz, and I've got Gnabry. They are so nicely priced as well. I would be all over them, and I think I would be tempted to go for someone like Havertz or Gnabry in terms of captaincy too. I've got Vendel and Marlon. I think Marlon will play, and I think Vendel will play as well. I'm surprised Vendel hasn't played more, actually. So I think I want to try and get some Dutch representation in some of my teams now. But I won't be transferring many out. I'll just be looking to maybe get a few in. Toloi, Chiesa and Belotti, that is completely based on what we think the lineup will be. So if any of these players are in there, then I think they're a good bet to put in. Belotti, I'm really hoping plays instead of Immobile because I really like him as a player. Dasher dude, I wouldn't be taking out Austria and Ukraine defenders. Both happy with draw, probably be 0-0. Yeah, exactly. And like I said, you know Alaba's going to play. So for me, I wouldn't be. I don't think you can justify a -4 for that. They're looking for a penalty. And De Bruyne, I mean, I've spoken about him so much already. Ronaldo, I've put him in there because I feel like Portugal need to get some kind of a result against France. And Ronaldo's having such a good tournament. He's not a kind of player that's going to sit there and say, oh, yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, we can draw and it's fine. I feel like he could do something potentially. So he's also there because if you've got somebody like Ronaldo in your team, don't take him out. Don't take him out of your team. People were taking him out of the team for Germany and he scored, got a goal and got an assist. So I just don't take him out if you've got him. So there you go. That is my stream for this week. I really do wish you luck for match day 3. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you to everybody in the chat that's been in the chat. Really, really appreciate it. It makes the stream much better when we've got people in the chat. Good luck this week. Make sure you, if you have any good weeks, make sure you get a hold of me as well. Make sure you get a hold of Draft Gym. Make sure you get a hold of me on Twitter because we would love to find out how you're getting on. And yeah,